Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the Leverage Technologies MYOB Acumatica User Group Update. We're excited to have you here today. This session is all about sharing updates, insights, and practical tips to help you get the most out of your investment in MYOB Acumatica. So welcome to today's session. We have a mix of clients, some who've been with us since we launched MYOB Acumatica 8 years ago, and some who've just joined the Leverage family recently. To all of you, a warm welcome. We've got some exciting content lined up, highly topical artificial intelligence, product updates, and tips to improve usability, automation, and analytics. I'm just going to go through the webinar format quickly. Here's how the next 70 minutes will run. We'll start with the leverage update, then move into practical tips and tricks for MYOB Acumatica. After that, we'll look at upcoming feature releases, and finally, we'll dive into much-loved subject of AI in Acumatica. I'd like to introduce today's hosts, Jeff Patch, our MYOB Acumatica product expert, Val Weiss, head of product at MYOB, and myself, Cooper Mundell. We also have several team members on the call who aren't presenting but are available to assist today. If you have any questions during the session, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Product innovation is a big focus right now. Thanks to the MYOB and Acumatica development teams, we're seeing improvements in usability, automation, and analytics. These changes are designed to make your day-to-day operations easier and give you better insights to grow your business. One of our key business drivers is listening to you. After this session, we'll send out a short survey asking what's important to your business, what's your key drivers, and how can we help your business grow. Your feedback shapes our roadmap and ensures we deliver what you need, so please do take a short moment and fill out the form. As a business, Leverage Technologies continues to grow. We've achieved double-digit growth year on year and added more than 40 net new customers annually across our divisions MYOB Acumatica, SAP, and Sage. This growth allows us to invest more in services and support for you. MYOB Acumatica remains a critical growth path for us. Over the next 12 months, we're achieving 20% growth through net new client acquisition and strong client retention. To achieve this, we're committed to providing exceptional service and technical expertise to help you succeed. Our approach is built on 4 pillars: listening, communicating, supporting, and consulting. Are we perfect? No, but we listen, we pivot, and we improve because we care about your business. Every client has a dedicated account manager who will contact you regularly. There are also meetings, whether quarterly, half-yearly, or annually, to cover projects, new features, and site health checks. Today's webinar also marks an increased focus on providing updates and tips to help you get the most value out of your MYOB Acumatica system, and we encourage you to suggest topics for future sessions. A huge thank you to Justine for leading the MYOB Acumatica team. We're expanding and currently recruiting senior consultants to strengthen our capabilities. Here are some of the amazing people you may be familiar with who help make this possible. Thank you for joining today's session. We appreciate your time and your partnership. We look forward to helping your business grow, and I will now hand over to Jeff, who will run through some tips and tricks. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. Many of you know me. I've been with Leverage for nearly over 10 years now, with MYOB Acumatica 10 years. While I may be getting older, I'm nowhere near obsolete. So let's have a look at what we have here today. What we're going to do is we're actually going to, first of all, focus on the tips and tricks, and then I'm going to review features in the 2025 release. So with the tips and tricks, I've decided to look at dashboards and how we can sort of unlock a lot of information, a lot of data, a lot of insights by using dashboards. I'm going to look at generic inquiries and how we can unlock a lot of power out of the generic inquiries as well. I'm going to go through some slides, and then I'm going to actually show you everything I'm going to discuss today. So dashboards, okay? So basically a picture's worth 1,000 words. What you want is just at the tip of your fingers, you just want to be able to sort of see trends, exceptions, insights, things that reminders, basically things which are important to you. So, but a dashboard can be at multiple levels. The dashboard could be at a company level metrics. It could be the production department. It could be individual KPIs and how the individual is going, or it could be focused on a particular bit of data, like a customer, a supplier, a stock item. And I'm going to show you examples, especially at the customer level here. Okay, so you have the customer master. It's a whole lot of figures and it's a whole lot of information on a screen. But what you want to do is start to bring that to life. What is the customer buying? What are their KPIs? What do they normally buy? How do they buy? What do they owe us? What's our liability there? Or what's our potential liability? So what's important with the customer dashboard is you need to make it available. And I'm going to show you how we can have the customer, a view of the customer as a standalone view of the customer. You enter the customer at the top, or on our list of customers, you just click on a row and show the customer dashboard. Or if you're in a customer, have it as a side panel, or even during the sales order entry. I'm going to show you all of that. Okay, so these are different examples of that. And what I'm going to talk about as well is how do you go about enabling these dashboards? There are provision dashboards. It's a limited set. I'll show you some. But in terms of dashboards, there's certain steps you need to go through if you're creating a new one. First of all, what's important to you? Okay, so think about what's important, sort of top customers, buying patterns, that sort of thing. What helps you? Don't show widgets which are not helpful. And some people also want to make sure that what we're showing, can it be actioned? Okay, it's not valuable to show information if you can't really action it, can't do anything about it. There are considerations, there's security considerations, who should see certain dashboards, company level financial dashboards, that sort of thing. There's certain information you do want to share, there's other information that's not necessary. They need to be efficient, especially as your databases get bigger and bigger, and they also need to be accurate. Okay, so fortunately, leverage, we have a library of basically data models that we can use on dashboards, and we can provide training and assistance. So let's have a little look at some of these dashboards. I'll just minimize this for a moment. Okay. Bring this one up. It's just refreshing at the moment. I'll just go to the customer view here. This is a standalone customer view dashboard. Just take it out of, there it is. And you can look at the customer in all sorts of ways. You can look at it from opportunities. You can look at it in terms of their open orders, the orders to ship, that sort of thing. You can look at it if you're using the support side of the business in terms of support. You can look at it in terms of the accounts receivable position. You can look at it in terms of what they're buying or what their buying pattern is. You can look at it in terms of what they have actually purchased. You can, at a glance, see who all the contacts are and all their recent activities, the statements that have been sent out, the invoices that have been sent out, phone calls, etc., etc. So all that information can be presented just on one screen here. If I change the customer here, just choose the top one there, then this will be customer specific information then. Nice, easy, and also quick. Now, this information can be presented standalone, you find it, that sort of thing. Or if you want to, you can have a list of the customers and you just activate the customer view over here. In the side panel, you click on a different customer and you'll get that customer's information as well. It's the same information as we had before, but presented as a side panel. And the system will automatically resize this accordingly, whether it's very narrow or large. And if you need to, you can just click on this and it will drill down and show you those late orders that are in the system there. Now, it's not only useful in here. Many of our clients, they spend quite a bit of the day in sales order entry, or it could be any screens where you got a sales order. You could be in projects, you could be a manufacturing client, but if you're in a project, you can see similar information, but maybe with a slightly different project orientation. But this is sales order entry. No, this is the sales order list. And if I open up the sales order, and we can also have that customer view there. Okay. Other things we could have, these are side panels over here. Some of you are using side panels a lot, some of them less. Over here, I've got invoices and memos on the sales order, customer details. I've also got this thing called ready to ship inquiry. And what that'll show me is very quickly which rows are ready to ship, which of them are not ready to ship. Okay, so going back to our customer view here. Now, the good thing about these is that once you've got your, where to retrieve the data, and you can use the leverage library and the leverage consultant to help with that. The setup of these widgets is relatively straightforward. It's primarily in the new release, it's one screen, but in this one, it's two screens. It's straightforward. You decide how do you want to see it, stack column, line, where you want the legend, how you want to do the series. This is by date and by month. And we finish. And now I've got a line graph rather than a stack column. Okay. So I'm going to move on now just to the generic inquiry part of this. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint for a second just to give an overview. I'm just tracking our time as well, so I'm okay. So let me get back to this. And I'll just play that again and move down to here. Okay. So when MYOB delivers the inquiries, they're fairly simple. But generic inquiries can contain a lot more than what is typically presented. Generic inquiries are also used basically everywhere. They're used for inquiries. They're used for primary list or entry point screens, which allow you to do mass updates, status changes, direct entry into the forms. They're used for integration with Excel, which I'm going to look at in a few minutes. They're used for business events, push notifications. They're used for imports and exports. Now, what is usually provisioned is on the left-hand side here is a list of customers. A limited number of columns, usually 6, 8, 10 columns. On the right-hand side here, I have what I call my customer overview. It's much more engaging. It provides much more information. It provides more filters. It provides feedback, color feedback. So I'm going to go into that in a few minutes and show that as an example. And then what I'm going to do is show you how to integrate this with Excel. Let's go into that there now. Okay. So first of all, what I'm showing here now is a list of customers. This is basically what Acumatica provisions. It's a list of customers. You can use filters and different things like that. Like I want to see everything in Sydney, with Sydney in there, but it's actually fairly straightforward. It's efficient though. Okay, so it brings this up pretty quickly. Now I'll just go here, and this is the customer listing revisited. So first of all, I've got lots of parameters up here. So if I want to find something for a particular salesperson, all the customers for a salesperson, I can find it really quickly. Okay. The other screen didn't have the salesperson on that screen. You'd have to add the salesperson on there, then add a filter on the column, and then go and search on that. And so a lot more steps and that sort of thing. Also, what I've done is I've added the accounts receivable balance and the totals down the bottom on here. There's also a bunch of predefined filters here where I can just say, show me all the customers with a balance. Okay. Let's let that come back up. And rather than just 6 or 8 columns, I've got lots and lots of information there. Basically, just about everything that's on that customer is on this form here. As well as that, we can do mass updates. If you need to change the salesperson on multiple customers, if you need to change different fields. Okay, if I just click here and say I want to update, you can do this en masse, but all of this information here can be changed en masse without having to ask Leverage to write an import scenario for you, or if you have those in-house skills yourself, to do those yourself. As well as that, I have lots and lots of different side panels on the side here. And we have lots of these in our library. You can speak to Leverage and we'll be able to show you those sort of records. Okay, so what I want to do now is I actually want to show you is how to get that information or any information that's in a generic inquiry into Excel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring over sales information. So I've got a blank spreadsheet here. Let me just pull that down to resize it. I have a blank spreadsheet, and within a minute or two, we're going to perform a sales analysis. So what we want to use is a connection called OData. OData has been supported always with Acumatica. It's an industry standard connection mechanism. Let me just get I need to get the URL. And put that in there. We need to tell it we're going to use OData, and we need to tell it the tenant we're getting it from. Let's fix up the spelling there. And there. And the system will authenticate this for us using the same security. This is my user ID for Acumatica. And if everything is good, it'll connect me to Acumatica, a secured login there. Once I have that, then I can then go about selecting what data I want to bring across. So I'm going to take a very simple approach here today and just load that information into a table in Excel. So this is all my invoices, my invoice details from Acumatica. So now what I want to do is I want to start transforming this data into something that's more useful. So I'm going to create a pivot table here. I'm just keeping it very simple today. And what I want is my customer, my sales amount, and what I want to do is I want to create a filter by the salesperson. So I can just click on that and it just filters that information there. Okay, now maybe I'm interested in knowing my top salespeople. So what I'm going to do here is just select in this case, my top 10 items, and there's my top 10 sales. I might want to format this more nicely so it's a little bit more readable, take out the decimals or whatever. And perhaps I want to create a chart of it. So now we've got our top salespeople there. Let me just sort this by largest to smallest. And there's my top salespeople. I want to look at how I'm going. There's me. Okay, so that's 2 minutes. And I've just created a chart, an Excel sheet. I'll just save it like that for the moment. Okay, and I can go into this tomorrow, next week, next year, just go refresh, and I've got refresh data. So you just go refresh and it'll just go and refresh that then. Now, that's only 5,000 records, but it only takes a minute on that. This is variable. There are some limitations to OData. About 500,000 records, it starts to time out. But I'm still working with MYOB on that. Okay. Do we have any questions? Feel free to ask questions. You know, sort of with these OData and pivot tables, just contact, it's a standard feature, it's well documented. But if you want some personalized training on it, you can contact the Leverage Support Desk or myself directly. I recently did this with one of our other clients. The session was only half an hour really, because once you know how to connect, then it's all just Excel after that. Okay, if you're keen on knowing more about OData, then that's all great. Now note, you can do basically this and more using, I know a lot of you are using Velixo. The Velixo generic inquiry function does this as well. The difference is Velixo will handle up to 1 million records. OData seems to only handle about 500,000 records. Velixo is quicker. It will download those 1 million records in probably 20% of the time, or even less than what OData will. It's also got better error corrections and that sort of thing. Okay, but if you have questions at the end of the meeting, feel free to reach out to us as well. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I will move on to the feature set for 2025.
Sorry, Jeff, I think we have a question here.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Jeffrey. How are you?
I'm very well.
I'm from Roper Gulf Regional Council, and I just saw you showed me us that customer overview panel, and we do have a customer documents to approve, a list of customer documents to approve. Can we have another column or something without opening the document that to whom this document goes to? Because in the list we just need to go there and check click on the reference number and check to whom it goes to without opening the document. Can we have that detail over this list in the customer overview?
So you have document attachments on the customer, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm just looking at dashboard, and there is a how we call documents to approve. That once we click on that one, it will open up another window.
Okay.
As you showed us. In there, I do have the list.
Oh, they're the standard approval type things. Yeah. Generally we can do things like that. Okay. If the information is stored in MYOB Acumatica, then we can typically pull that information out, especially with this latest release, the 2024 release. We've got the power of generic inquiries has increased substantively. But to contact the support desk or contact us directly, and we'll look at that for you.
Yeah, thank you so much, because I can see only the list. If we can have the approver's name over there, we can just easily filter it and send that for him or her to approve the list.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. With document approvals, there's all sorts of things you can do in the system. Sometimes people don't get to it a little bit. Okay. And so what we can do is we can actually send them reminders.
Okay.
Okay, email reminders, even text messages. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's all sorts of ways of doing that. One of the dashboards that I've made available to certain clients, particular clients, is basically a reminder dashboard. You need to do these. These tasks are yours. These approvals are yours. They're overdue and things like that.
Okay. Thank you, Jeffrey. I will contact the help desk for
Yeah.
support. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
you. And just mention my name that and then they'll chase me up about it as well. Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
You're very welcome. I think we will move on, and if there's other questions, just bring them on. I'm going to have another question and answer session on this next one as well.
And just to let everyone know, you can now unmute yourselves. I have enabled that capability.
Thanks, Mary. Okay, feature release. Okay, let me there we go. Okay, 2025. The 2025 release is all about two areas. It's primarily about two areas: the modern UI and the AI features. Volantis will be covering off the AI features after my session, so I've been left with everything else. So the modern UI is the main thing. 2020, and then I'm going to talk about a select few other features. Now 2025. Point 1 and point 2 together have probably got up to somewhere between 100 and 200 new features. It's about 500 pages of stuff. But 2020, so there's a lot. So I just chose a few here just as a representative. Let me go on to here. 2025.1 primarily lays the platform for the AI and the modern user interface. By default, the modern user interface is not turned on here, but it is turned on this release. This is being released currently. It's being rolled out currently, and this is due for customer upgrades. This is actually running on your system in June next year. So that'll go quickly, especially with Christmas and January. And then you'll have probably in, I think it's April, March. Yeah, it's April that you can start looking at things there. So with the 25.2 release, the default is the modern UI. I'm going to show it to you in a few minutes. It's different, it's clearer, okay? But if you want to, you can always switch back to the classic UI. The modern UI, well, as I mentioned, it's quicker, it's cleaner, it's easy to adapt, it's got greater personalization, and it's really the base for building out advanced functionality. Customers have been asking for better scheduling boards, calendars, all sorts of things like that. The modern UI enables basically a whole lot of new features where Acumatica was somewhat constrained with the classic user interface. Modern UI, you can do personalization. I'm going to show you this, but this is an example where at an administrator level, you can basically change the look and feel, and you can change a lot of the fields, the tabs, and different things on the screens. And you don't need to be a rocket scientist to be able to do that. I'm also going to have a quick look at production scheduling as a feature. A couple of different screens there. another feature called order orchestration, and another project all in, which a project status screen, which shows you on one screen just about everything to do with projects. I'm actually hoping that this type of inquiries is what's going to be rolled out, more and more across the system. Okay, so let's have a look at 2025. So this is 2025. I'll just go to a sales order screen. Let's go straight away. You'll notice the difference there. But this is a sales order entry screen. You'll see up here nice clean panes, sort of small windows within the main window with all of this. You'll see here color coding of statuses. You'll see actually more side panels and things like that. So this is a sales order entry screen. Acumatica also saying it runs quicker, it's snappier. But I'll give you an example of the personalization. If I wanted to, I can, as an administrator, I can go and do screen configuration. Then what you actually see that each of these is configurable. Even this here, the tabs are configurable. If you want to, if you don't want the user to actually see the taxes or the details of the taxes, or you can actually hide it. Okay, or you can move them around. Okay, so what that'll do is reduce the amount of detail, the amount of clutter. But here as well, let's go back into that. It started to not work for me here. What you can do is easily also change what fields are displayed here for you. So just by clicking and dragging, you'll be able to do that. Let me just reset that back to Murphy's Law. I've been inactive in it for too long. Let me just close this. So if I wanted to, if I want put additional fields here, I can go down here and say, I want to see the order weight. Apply that, and now I've got the weight of the order here. On the other hand, I can take fields away just as easily by doing that. So if we don't want the order reference, if we don't want certain information here, we can take it away, and then you can just basically have more screen personalization for yourself. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show you was, I'll just go over here to what we call the customer view. So that's in terms of the screens. That area has changed there. In terms of generic inquiries, generic inquiries has become more clean now. So if I go to, let's go to my list of sales orders, for instance. So I've got my list of sales orders here. previously there used to be, you could put a lot of different tabs across here. Now they're in a drop down here. So it takes up a lot less screen space. It's a little cleaner. It actually seems quicker as well. This snaps really quickly. So, but I haven't benchmarked this yet, but my feelings at the moment is it's like that. Pivot tables have been reworked as well. So pivot tables, they're just more like the modern user interface, and they're more accessible over on the side here. The dashboards. The dashboards, you've got the choice of the classic view, or you've got the modern user interface. You'll see here, it's especially KPIs have been reworked quite a bit. So this is the customer view here, and that side of things has been reworked as well. Let me close some of these tabs down so we can move on to some of the other things we've just been talking about. Okay. One of the things I talked about was the project status screen. This is a new screen, and it basically gives us all aspects of the project on one screen, but orientated to where the status is, where the transactions are, etc., etc. So you can look at it in the financials, you can look at your budgets, you can look at your change orders, you can look at cost projections, pro forma invoices. So it's one screen that gives you more of an overview of the particular projects. If you have projects, then this could be quite insightful for you. Production scheduling has been reworked, and what I've seen of it to date, I like it. Okay. Previously, the scheduling board was, being frank, it was a little more than a projection, a report. It wasn't that useful. But now we have this production order view that looks at materials and looks at sub orders or sub assemblies and gives you one view of the production schedule. And then you can open up any production order and reschedule it, change its dates and that sort of thing, and it will move. This is the production order view, whereas this is the schedule. Sorry, I need to change the dates here. Oh. Because I signed back in, I have to go back in again. Let's just look at this one, and I'll just open up the scheduling board. And I need to change the date on this to somewhere around And that should bring that up. And now I've got in this case, I'm just looking at one specific production order, and it's given me my scheduling board here. Once we've got the scheduling board, then you can open it up, reschedule, that type of thing. Okay, and this becomes a working board now, whereas previously it was really just a display of the schedule. Now, what else is in the 2025 release? So you currently should have access via MYOB Acumatica to the release notes. I've got them available. I've got the Acumatica version, which is 99% the same. I've got the Acumatica version. I've went through 25.1 and 25.2. As I mentioned earlier, 25.1 lays the platform, but it does have some interesting functionality that would be useful for some of our clients. Enhanced MRP capability, some inventory things in terms of lot and serial attributes. There's a bunch of project stuff as well. Whereas the 25.2 release, literally, for me, I've been doing this for 10 years. I think this is the most productive release that we've had, probably because they've accumulated a lot of features from the 24 and 25. But in terms of things which are significant to you, I've went through and highlighted many significant items here, and you'll see that it's basically nearly everything is significant for many of our clients. If you're interested in more detail, then reach out to us and we can go over that. So, any questions on this area? Feel free to ask some questions, think about it for a minute. Okay, so 25.1, that's been rolled out currently. Some of our clients have been upgraded this month. More will be upgraded, and then it'll go full steam come mid-January and February. 25.2, which has got the default user interface, is coming out. The upgrades will start happening in June. This, I believe, sort of if your site has little customization, the processes are fairly straightforward, then it should be fairly simple. But if you have a lot of customizations and API changes and specials in your site, then I would advise that have a good look at the release notes and do some good testing. As we proceed into next year, I'd like to see basically we'll probably have a webinar for 25.2 where we will spend a lot more time on the differences, what changes, how to prepare the users and that type of thing. In terms of the modern user interface, I don't see it as being a big change. I think after an hour or two, people probably won't notice the difference. It's got personalization, but in terms of the data entry, it's not as if it's a big difference. You've still got all the information at the top. You've still got all the tabs. You've got the matrix, the row view of all what you're selling. I think, Cooper, we could move on to Valanta's sales
Awesome.
presentation.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for taking the time and effort to put that together. I know it would have been time consuming. It's now time, everyone, for MYOB Acumatica AI, which I know you're all very excited to hear from Val. So we're going to continue.
Hi everyone, my name is Valentis Vase and I'm responsible for product here at MYOB. And I'm super excited to be here with you today to be able to share with you what we're doing with respect to bringing AI to the MYOB Acumatica platform. Today I'll be covering with you three main areas. First, we'll start with just the AI landscape. There's a lot in the press and there's a lot going on, so let's just get a common understanding of what's been happening. Secondly, I want to share with you how we're going about thinking about bringing AI to MYOB and the approach that we're taking. Because for me, with a technology that's moving so quickly, it's important to understand how we're thinking about it as opposed to necessarily what's happening right now. But what we'll finish on is kind of what is happening right now in the platform. So I'll share with you kind of what are some of the latest features, but then also share with you a little bit of our kind of secrets in regards to what's coming in the future with respect to our roadmap. So you might not know this, but mid-sized businesses represent over 30% of the Australian economy. And for me, this was a really interesting fact when we did some research about this recently. And for me, it just highlighted what I kind of already intuitively knew, that mid-sized businesses like yours have a huge impact on the Australian economy. And this huge impact, I think, will continue to be elevated as new capabilities and new technologies kind of come to market. And later in 2024, we actually did a study to understand kind of what customers and what mid-sized businesses were prioritizing with respect to technology adoption. And what was really interesting, even in those early days in 2024, was that the use of AI tools quickly became one of the highest priority items for mid-sized businesses. And it essentially leapfrogged certain other technologies that had been around for a while. And in particular, data analytics and big data actually is now the fourth highest with respect to what mid-sized businesses are focusing on, which for me was really surprising and a really early sign that as AI kind of comes to market, it's going to have a really huge impact for mid-sized businesses. Now, looking a little bit over time, AI has actually been around for a while. And it obviously, year over year, it's taken kind of different forms. And for a period of time, it was called kind of more machine learning versus AI. But what we've seen, and this is actually a study done by McKinsey, and what we've seen, particularly in 2023 and a little bit earlier as ChatGPT kind of took everybody's kind of imagination by storm, the uptake and adoption of AI has accelerated. And to a point now where 72% of companies have adopted AI in some areas of their AI work in their daily workflows. Now, what's been driving this incredible uptake of AI? It's actually a specific type of AI, and this is essentially generative AI. And this has been what's been underpinning this continued kind of growth and uptake with respect to AI. Now, when I say generative AI, kind of what do I mean? So, as I said, a lot's been happening in this space and it's moving extremely quickly. So kind of where is AI at today? Well, let's kind of break it down into three main areas. So there's kind of traditional AI, sometimes called machine learning. There's generative AI, which is some of the newer stuff in particular that kind of ChatGPT has been utilizing. And then agentic AI, which essentially is a build on top of kind of generative AI. So let me just kind of walk through them one by one. So traditional AI is built on kind of algorithms, things that are quite what's known as deterministic. So you kind of put in a certain, like 1 + 1 = 2 in a very simplistic way. What this is very good at is repetitive data-heavy work. And a good example of this would be kind of OCR, or kind of document recognition, an ability for it to identify kind of what is the text on a specific image. That's kind of an example of traditional AI. Versus if we now look at generative AI is kind of built on what are known as kind of large language models, or sometimes shortened to LLMs. In this scenario, what an LLM is actually being trained on is an incredible amount of information. And what all of this data allows it to do is actually help with tasks that are a little bit more creative and sometimes a little bit more analytical. And hence, the ability for it to create kind of human-like text, those kind of chat experiences that you may have been having with ChatGPT, is what generative AI is very good at. So report summaries, things like that is where generative AI is most impactful and where I'd say a lot of the LLM techniques have been focusing on to date. Now, agentic AI, which is a little bit more new and it's kind of been a real focus area over the last kind of 6 to 12 months. As I mentioned, these things are moving very, very quickly. So even though generative AI is only a few years old, it's kind of already, agentic AI is now starting to have this kind of new impact. What it's looking to do is actually take kind of large language models and then put them at the center of kind of interconnected systems. So think about a large language model whose output is not just text, but it may have an ability to perform actions on top of existing systems or even interact with existing systems to get new information. And what agentic AI is going to be able to help with is more end-to-end automation, decision-making. Kind of this AI agent will have the ability to reorder stock, be able to perform a certain piece of analysis before potentially bringing it to you to kind of make a decision. These kind of, all three of these areas, kind of traditional AI, generative AI, and agentic AI, have a role to play in mid-sized businesses. But I think it's helpful to understand these three different use cases because they're also at very different levels of maturity. Traditional AI, relatively mature, relatively stable. Generative AI, relatively well understood, kind of still becoming more mature in regards to managing the risks around generative AI and its impact. Agentic AI, kind of very new, quite experimental, and people are trying to understand how they would actually bring it into their businesses. Now, for MYOB Acumatica, having an understanding of what's happening in the marketplace from a technology standpoint around AI, but equally having worked with many customers like yourselves, we've started to form our own view about what's the best way to bring AI into the MYOB Acumatica platform such that it can have the greatest impact on mid-sized businesses. And for us, it sits around these three pillars. So the first is kind of just practical AI for real businesses. This is all about having our customers at the center of what we do. It's all about AI that kind of works for you, is practical and embedded. AI that kind of solves real problems as opposed to kind of being hype orientated. The second is this idea about making sure that it's trusted and kind of local in regards to the way that it's designed and provided to customers. So you want to make sure, or we feel what's really important is that you have AI that you can trust and is built for the Australian and New Zealand market. So it meets local compliance requirements, governance, with data stored locally or kind of utilized in a way that kind of meets local regulations. And this for us is super important, kind of particularly as we collaborate very closely with AWS and ThoughtWorks, who are some of our technology partners in this space. And then finally, AI is moving extremely fast. And therefore, what we think is really important is ensuring the technologies that you choose to adopt and interact with today are future ready. And what I mean with that is making sure that you can benefit from the next iteration and the next iteration, whether that's next iteration of LLM model, whether that's the next iteration of use case that the technology can now do that previously wasn't able to do. This is where we need to have a system and an approach that we're taking to this that is adaptive to this kind of ever-changing kind of AI landscape. Now, all of these three pillars underpin with us having a highly responsible approach. And what I mean by that is ensuring that the data that we use, the approaches that we take are all front of mind in regards to kind of respecting kind of the data and how it's utilized. So if that's kind of our approach, let me kind of describe to you the experiences or the type of interactions that you'll be having with MYOB Acumatica AI. There's kind of three main areas. One is around assist, the second is automate, and the third is advise. So with AI Assistant, what this is looking to do is make kind of the everyday task easier, turning every interaction that you have with the system into what we're describing as supercharged experience. And that's just saying it's going to be easier to do the tasks that you need on the platform. The second area is automation. So AI will enable you to automate more of the mundane work. And this is going to be powered by a capability called AI Studio that's going to give you the flexibility to create your own personalized AI agents or automations that enable you to complete tasks that previously were not possible. And for those of you who have kind of been around this technology for a while, you may have heard about low code, no code. Think of AI automation as being kind of the next generation of that, having an ability to perform certain tasks without you needing to be really explicit about the if this then that type of statements. Instead, it has an ability to kind of interpret what you're trying to achieve and for it to be able to complete that. And then the final aspect, which is advise. So with AI Advisor, the idea here is for it to be able to help make sense of your data and help you make decisions, kind of practical insights to drive better decision making. And over time, we see AI Advisor being able to support you on more complex decisions as more and more capabilities become available in the platform. So to step back, MYOB Acumatica AI is really focused on these three experiences: assist, automate, and advise, and doing it in a really practical way so that essentially you can do more with your platform. Now, how are we going about this? So kind of what's inside the machine that allows us to kind of keep you in control and allowing it to be flexible, secure, and cost effective? So what you see here is a really top level view of our kind of system architecture, let's call it. So at the top, those three experiences of assist, automate, and advise sit on top of kind of AI Studio. So AI Studio has kind of is where you have the ability to configure your agents. It's also kind of where we'll be building experiences with an AI assistant. That AI Studio sits on top of the gateway. Now, this gateway plays an incredibly important role with respect to the impact that AI can have. So I don't know if you've used kind of ChatGPT or other kind of chat interactions, you'll often find yourself kind of copy pasting information. You'll copy information from here, paste it into the chat, have an interaction, and then kind of maybe bring it back. What you're doing in this instance, in that copy pasting, is you're adding what's called context. So you're asking it a question, you're adding context, and then it's prompting, you're copying the answer and insert it back into your system. What the gateway does is it adds that context to your prompt in a way that is extremely secure. So it adds your business context. And the way that it does that is it accesses your data sources inside the ERP to ensure that it pulls the most relevant information that needs to be appended to your prompt. It then anonymizes that information and then has the ability to then send that information out to a kind of third-party LLM. And what this allows you to do is to confidently use these models without being concerned about having data leakage, without being concerned about this information going out to kind of the wrong place. The gateway enables it to become a very secure experience and a very reliable experience with respect to how you and your users kind of interact with the system. And what that does is it enables you to give more of your users access to AI Studio so they can create their own automations, but it also allows you to pick which model is most appropriate, which third-party AI services make sense. So some of these AI services can be very accurate, but they can also be very expensive. So hence, depending on the use case, you might be able to pick the right large language model that kind of meets those requirements based upon that specific use case, which keeps you in control about what system gets access to what information, but then also leaves you in control with respect to how you kind of stay on top of costs. Now, let me give you a specific workflow of kind of what's possible utilizing AI Studio. And in this example, let's talk about a sales order workflow. So in this instance, you're email processing an order. So a customer sends a sales order request via an email. So they just notify you of specific things they want to order. What you're then able to do in AI Studio is you're able to kind of set up an agent that essentially extracts the relevant information, customer name, items, quantities from that email, and then produces the sales order or produces the quote, depending on your workflow. This data is therefore extracted automatically, populated into the sales order screen in Acumatica. And then at that stage, you can then decide whether you want a person to kind of validate that, or you can actually have a separate automation that then checks it. So you could get an agent that then checks that information, validates quantities. It might validate kind of what warehouse it's in, whether it meets like completeness and accuracy. And you can essentially create an AI agent within AI Studio to do that. Then at this stage, you might actually want to generate this quote and send it out to the customer. You can then create a separate agent or a separate automation that then takes this that produces this sales quote, and then maybe you want to provide a little bit of text content on the email as opposed to just like a straight attachment. You can then have this sales order then sent to the customer via an email so that they then have the ability to kind of validate it's the right order before kind of coming back to and notifying that kind of that these are the right goods and the sales quote looks good. So if you think about what I've just described there, is you have a customer kind of submitting an order into your business. You then have a series of discrete agents that are performing specific tasks, and then almost independent, and this is up to you in regards to how you do this, you could automatically then have a sales quote generated for the customer, sent back to them such that they can approve it, and then you can receive that order. This is just an example of what's possible with kind of MYOB Acumatica AI Studio and the types of automations that you'll be able to do over time. But what I'd suggest is think of this as an example, not as the only option that you have. What we've tried to do with AI Studio is put the power in your hands with respect to what are the most impactful automations and use cases where you think AI and a large language model will enable you to kind of automate some of the most critical processes where you feel automation, whether to save time or improve accuracy, could be most impactful. Now, some of these capabilities will be coming over subsequent releases, and AI Studio, as an example, is coming in 2026. But in the short term, there are specific features that are actually rolling out to customers right now. And these are leaning more towards kind of the machine learning, traditional AI technologies, but in my mind, are just as impactful. So there are 4 main capabilities that I'm super excited to be able to share with you today that will be coming to the platform. The first is around AP bill entry. So what this looks to do is read all of your invoices that need to be paid, so your accounts payable, and it creates that AP bill entry in an automatic way. So what it does is it uses document recognition along with semantic interpretation to be able to do that. The other thing, which is kind of sits alongside this, is expense management. So with the app, you'll now be able to take a photo of a receipt, and it will be able to read that receipt and then help your users or your team members to be able to populate their expenses in a much more automated fashion without having to kind of manually key in all the data. The third area, which I'm really excited to see what you all will be able to do with this technology, is anomaly detection. So with anomaly detection, what this capability will enable you to do is identify unusual patterns in your data. So you can kind of catch errors earlier, but also kind of draw out insights from your data in a much more scalable and systematic way. And then finally, across the entire platform, we're also really excited to be releasing autocomplete, which essentially will enable you to kind of accelerate some of that repetitive text that you're always putting in different text boxes. It will learn with respect to how you use what you're typically interacting with the system with, and will help you to kind of just type in the information and just hit tab to kind of complete sentences. So let me now describe to you what an early access customer who's been using some of these new capabilities I've mentioned and how they've been benefiting from these technologies. So let me introduce you to a business called Kitchen Group. So they're a mid-sized business based out of regional New South Wales, and they've been an Acumatica customer for a while and now part of this early access program, as I mentioned. So they design and build these amazing cabinetry kind of for your kitchen, laundry, and most notably, actually, they've been kind of partnering really close with the block. So Nikki and her team have been using this feature in our early access program for now over a few weeks. And what they've already identified in using this kind of really practical AI capability is that they're able to save hours every single week. So that's time that they're not spending kind of typing in data, but actually now using for other activities across their job, across their work, like identifying opportunities to improve margin, or even helping to ensure that the business has the right kind of commercial analysis to make other decisions. So this is an example of a really simple, practical, and kind of genuinely useful kind of AI capability that we've brought to the platform. Now, let me kind of show you what this looks like. So what this does, and what you can see here, is essentially AP bill entry. So what you're able to do is drag and drop an invoice into the system, or you can set up a shared inbox. And what it will do, and you can set this on a schedule or you can do it manually, is that it will then interpret the information that's on this invoice. So it will then look at kind of supplier name, the date of the supplier, the date, the supplier's reference, but then also really importantly, and in this example, there's only a few line items, but I know for many of you, you'll often have kind of 10, 20 different line items that sometimes can be error prone as you're kind of manually typing them in. What this allows you to do is have all of that information populated into the system, so it's much easier for it to kind of share that relevant information kind of for future business decision making. And this is just a really good example of practical AI coming into the platform. Now, let's talk anomaly detection. Now, anomaly detection is a little bit of a more powerful capability, and kind of will require you to have a think through, like, what are the best places for you to do this analysis. Now, in this specific example, what I want to show you is how anomaly detection can be used to keep track of costs. So in this specific example, what you can see is anomaly detection having run on top of a whole lot of kind of purchase orders. And these are looking at specific costs within your purchase orders to identify information that might help you identify when costs have been inaccurately allocated. So what you saw there, let me just go back a little bit. What you can see here is those rows that are highlighted in red are essentially situations where the cost of that item sits dramatically different to the cost of that item relative to other similar items. So what this is highlighting is it kind of focuses your attention to the items where maybe a supplier has overcharged you relative to the items before. So instead of reviewing hundreds and hundreds of transactions, in this situation, you're kind of only really reviewing 4 transactions to identify whether there's something kind of inaccurate, where they incorrectly charge you, and you can kind of focus on those items most importantly. The other thing that I want to call out is this example is just an example. You can put that anomaly detection, and this is what I'm showing you here is the configuration screen. You can put it on top of any generic inquiry. So whether it's purchase orders, accounts payable, or your general ledger, or any other generic inquiry, you have the ability to set up anomaly detection such that it can identify for you the pieces of information or the records that are kind of have differences that allows you to focus on the things that are kind of most impactful. So another great example of really practical AI capabilities in the platform that you can use straight away. Now, before I wrap up, I also want to highlight that there is a lot more coming to the platform. And what you can see here, I know many of you may kind of screenshot, but this is our plans with respect to kind of how AI is going to come to the platform in 2026, but then also kind of going a little bit further out into 2027. So as I touched on right now, AI assistant, automation, and AI insights across anomaly detection, autocomplete, AP bill, and expense reports, they're in the platform right now. As we look towards 2026, from an AI insight standpoint, along with anomaly detection, we're now going to be looking in introducing kind of what we're calling cross-sell assistant. So what this will do is help your sales team members identify which customers are likely to purchase which other items, and therefore you'll have the ability to help them provide the right recommendations. And then also in early 2026, we will start introducing AI Studio and technology preview. So think of that as being early access, versus by the time we get to the second half of next year, AI Studio will be entering general availability. So this will make sure that this is available to all customers, and I'll be able to kind of create those automations like that AI sales order automation that I referenced earlier. Plus, and I know we didn't discuss it today, but plus we will be starting to make in limited availability what's AI Assistant. So like think of it as a chat experience in the product that will enable you to kind of complete tasks much more streamlined. And the plan is to make that generally available kind of in early 2027, while we continue to make enhancements to AI Studio kind of continuing into 2027 and beyond. So thank you for taking the time to hear from me with respect to where I think MYOB Acumatica AI is today and where it's going over time and how it can have a real impact for you and your business.
Well, that is a wrap for our session. So thank you so much for attending today. If you did see anything that you'd like to look into further, please do reach out to either Jeff, Justine, or any of the Leverage team members. We are more than happy to help. So thank you for today. That is it.